I don't have an opening plan. That's my opening. This is our opening because I just thought really, really hard of how to open episode 87 of The Blade Job, and I had nothing. And then, so we're going to open the episode with me screwing up and my wonderful, wonderful guest, Mags himself, laughing in the background. That's our intro. Oh my God.
It's probably the best intro you've ever had as well.
I agree. I remember when we used to have like 10-minute intros where we would like pimp everything and talk about Spotify and iHeartRadio and all the places you can find us that only like 6 people ever find us at. I remember that. We don't do that anymore because, whatever. Come on. Like, if people know where to get podcasts, you know, like if we were on Visionary or, you know, like Chairshot or something, I might be a little more like, hey, go there because that's like the place. But we're not, so I don't. I also didn't start my recording timer, but that's neither here nor there. Thanks for coming, man. I appreciate you.
Absolutely not a problem. Anytime I can be on the Blade Job show is a good time.
I try to make it a good time. And I still think...
you that's in spite of you. I weren't...
Oh, okay.
Don't get it twisted. It wasn't because of you.
It's just because of the environment. It's because of the... no rules, no holds barred kind of situation that we have here in our lovely, palatial studio.
I'm joking. It is because of you. I think you're amazing.
Why, thanks, buddy. I felt good yesterday because I was on Twitter for the first time in like 2 weeks, and I got a lot of messages of, dude, where the fuck have you been? Yeah, and I was like, surprised. I don't know. I wandered away. I just got, and I'll be honest, I got sick of it. You know, we know that there's a lot of drama right now, and I was hoping it would go away after a couple of weeks, after AEW kind of got going and people would just calm down. But AEW is not making it easy. WWE is not making it easy, and they are just, both of them are just stirring the pot.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
The fans are eating it up, and WWE and AEW are weaponizing their fans, and it sucks. To be blunt, it sucks.
Yep, I agree.
And there's some great people out there who are really walking a thin line of being supporters as opposed to being assholes, but they are really close to moving over that line into just assholes. And it's tough because I'll tell you the name after because I don't want to call anyone out. But there's a certain account that I know we both follow, and they've always been a firm AEW supporter, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But recently they have begun using WWE as the crutch as to why AEW is good. And I don't think AEW should be considered good because of WWE's faults. I think AEW should be allowed to stand on their own merits. And in the reverse, WWE doesn't have to be bad because AEW is better. That it's counterproductive. We're not helping anyone. All we're doing is complaining, and all we're doing is going around in circles and circles. And with that being said, I'm going to complain for the next 60 minutes.
Yeah, I think with a lot of the people who I follow, I mean, I've had some Twitter issues this week. I lost all my followings. But with a lot of the people who I follow, there's a significant amount of like comparing the two companies, and there's almost like a rose-colored glasses effect for me, where AEW are doing one thing and they're still getting a pass. Now I understand that they're in a grace period, and everything that they're doing is sunshine and roses. But when WWE do the same thing, they're literally the exact same thing, they're getting raked over the coals for it. It's just interesting to see how long this grace period is going to last. For full context, I've enjoyed every AEW show. I think it's been a breath of fresh air in terms of wrestling. I
But
don't.
real
Go on.
quick, can you honestly say you've enjoyed every single AEW match?
No, 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 no.
Okay.
No show has been perfect at all. They've they've been very big issues, but it's still been a breath of fresh air in terms of a different wrestling product. I
It's
just I
it's
just don't
been
like how these are now the second coming of wrestling, and they can't do any wrong, which we all know they can. And even when these people who are defenders of AEW acknowledge that there is issues, it's they fall back to the default argument of, well, they're a new company, they're going to have these issues. Yeah, I totally understand that, but then you can't give them a pass for having issues when WWE have the same issues and they get raked all over the calls for him.
yeah.
I don't like the inconsistency.
And the issue I have with that argument, not yours, the argument people are making is that none of these people are new professional wrestlers. These are existing professional wrestlers who have been doing this for years, and that's fine because you know what? At the end of the day, they're not at fault. Booking is at fault. The people in charge are at fault for some of these issues. And lo and behold, all of the people in charge are professional wrestlers, minus Tony. And I know that they've said 100 times that Tony is the be all end all creative decision maker. And I don't see that. And it's tough too because you know that Tony is friends with the Bucks and he's friends with Cody and he's friends with Omega because they've been essentially hanging out daily for the past year getting this going. They're close, and he's going to always be closer to Cody and the Bucks than he is to, say, I don't know, Jimmy Havoc and Private Party. It's just the way it is. So we'll go kind of over it one by one. I don't want anyone to think that this episode is here to shit talk AEW because I'm with you. I've enjoyed it. I've had a good time. I've got to see a lot of cool things, a lot of cringeworthy things. But at the end of the day, what I think that AEW is succeeding in is they are giving the masses a really polished, independent wrestling show. Not in the sense that this isn't just a super indie, in the sense that all of these guys and girls are fresh off the independent circuit. Like, they still have a very unique style because on the indies, you need to come up with your style and your character and your everything because nobody's going to do it for you. I know some, promoters will bring someone in and be like, okay, I want you to do this tonight and I want you to do this under this character. You're a heel, you're a face, whatever. But things are different now because we are moving more into a territory direction where if someone is a face in one promotion, they're probably a face in another promotion. Yeah. Which I actually told this story on the most recent episode of Good Cop, Bad Cop, where I filled in for Mr. Matt Willis. That's a little cheap pop right there. Mr. Dominic Dijakovic, or Donovan Dijakovic, as he was on the network. I don't know if they messed up his name or if they're rebranding him back to Donovan, but the network, the match versus him and Keith Lee, he is listed as Donovan. So, to be seen. But I was lucky enough to go to 2 of his final independent appearances before he signed with NXT. And in one show at Beyond, he was a face. And then at Lucky Pro, he was a heel. And it was really weird because it was kind of the first time I'd seen that recently, where seeing the same performer within a week be a face in one promotion and a heel in another. But so at the end of the day, you know, maybe this is a creative issue and maybe it is growing pains. But so a couple of things, we already kind of went over this, you and I, because we actually did. I want people to understand something. Mags and I did a little bit of pre-production chatting to have topics to speak on. Now, this has not happened in a long time with anyone. I don't care if it's Scott. I don't care if it was Melissa or Graham or Matt, or it doesn't matter. We never talk about what we're going to talk about. We hit record and we see what's going to happen. And that's part of our charm, I think. And I think that people should understand that. And please, just listen. Just listen. I swear, we're not just going to go, well, on Raw, this match happened. On SmackDown, this match happened. We're not that show. No offense to people who do that. They do it great. Mr. Warren Hayes, he does a fantastic job at Raw reviews and SmackDown reviews. We don't do that. I don't care enough. I don't pay attention enough.
I don't watch Raw or SmackDown, so that would be absolutely pointless to me.
I have gotten back into wrestling pretty hard lately, so I've been watching a lot, and I'm trying to watch everything, which is impossible. Yeah, it's painful. But anyways, so one of the things that we discussed was, you know, we're going to start with, I want to start with this because I don't know how I feel about it, because this I feel is too early to tell, but let's start with it. AEW's women's division. So, yeah, I know we have spent the last year listening to Brandy tell us how important the women's division is to AEW, how important this is to women's wrestling. And I'm not going to say that WWE, and I'm talking main roster WWE, I'm not saying that WWE has better storylines or better performers. I'm not comparing any of that. But I'm just saying that the women in WWE are getting a lot more of a fair shot and more screen time than they are in AEW. We have multiple, I'm not going to say well thought out, but at least partially thought out women feuds going on in WWE. In AEW, I have no idea what's going on, and most of these matches have been awful. So yeah. I want to know your thought on that. I know we kind of talked about it before we went on the air, but I mean, I like Rio. I like Nyla Rose. I love Britt Baker. I love these women. Bea Priestley. They're fantastic. Who's the other Jushi? She's got the short hair. She was in the triple threat match.
Was it Sakura?
No, Yoho, Yuko. Oh, man, I'm blanking on her name. She dresses like a fucking genie.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I don't know her name.
Awesome.
If we had Jonathan Big Paws on a puppy, he'd probably be able to ram it off verbatim. But yeah, I can't remember her name. But yeah, she's a brilliant wrestler.
All of these performers are fantastic, and they've got some true legendary performers on the roster with Awesome Kong and Aja Kong, who we have not seen on anything since the pay-per-views. Or maybe they came out episode 1. I don't know. But what do you think? Like, maybe I'm just being whiny, but I'm a big fan of women's wrestling. Our first episode that we ever did of this podcast was about women's wrestling because I love it. I think it doesn't get, people are so still stuck in the divas mentality that they're not realizing that these are some of the best performers in general on the planet. So what are your feelings on AEW's women's roster, AEW specifically?
Yep. I think it's another case of the higher ups in AEW running their mouths and writing checks that their asses are unable to cash. We was told when AEW was starting that this would be the all-inclusive wrestling company. And a huge women's wrestling stalwart, Miss Kristen Ashley from belltobells.com, actually did a breakdown of the percentages of women's matches and also the allotted time. And there hasn't been a week yet where there has been more than 20% of women's matches on the card and 20% of the allotted time for women's matches on the card. So that's actually less than what WWE are outputting. So yeah, their women's division is not getting. Like I said, they've got some amazing talent. You've mentioned some absolutely stellar female talent, and they're not getting the spotlight that AEW said they were going to get. I don't think Nyla Rose was ready for the prominent position that she was put in. All power to her being a transgender wrestler. I absolutely think that's amazing and good on AEW for putting her basically at front and center. But I don't think she was ready for it. I think she was too green.
Her Twitter outburst kind of proves that. Like, I'm not saying that what happened to her was appropriate or right, because the way that people talk to her online is appalling.
Yeah.
But you saw me post this, and I got a lot of shit for this. These wrestlers are no longer on the indies. They represent a multi-billion-dollar company. You don't shoot your mouth off online. You don't. Because, and I don't care if people are like, you go girl, no. If you want to be considered a professional, you need to just keep your mouth shut, or you need to be respectful in your responses, because you are supposed to be better than them. You are supposed to be the role model. And if Nyla Rose wants to be considered a role model for young transgendered people or young women or young men or whoever, you can't just have these outbursts. You can't just freak out because someone's being a dickhead. She has every right in the world to do that. But she needs to understand that could cost her career at this point.
The issue isn't so much that about her outbursting on Twitter. It's the fact that her superiors in that company, her vice president and her chief brand officer, are doing the exact same thing. So she's only following their example. You've got the likes of Brandy Rhodes, who goes off on people on Twitter. You've got Cody Rhodes, who's forever using Twitter as a sounding off board. So I kind of give her a bit of a pass on that case, because she's only doing what her essentially her bosses do.
Oh, I agree with you, and they're all wrong. Every single one of them is wrong. Mm-hmm. You're not going to see Vince McMahon doing this. You're not going to see Triple H doing this. You're not going to see other leaders in major companies. You're not going to see fucking, I don't know, I'm trying to think, like Jeff Bezos doing this. You know, that's not what companies do. You need to. So a lot of people a couple years ago gave a lot of flack that WWE performers had to dress appropriately when traveling to and from the arena. Like, they wanted them wearing suits and they wanted them wearing like nice clothing to show that they were professionals. And people were like, oh, that's so stupid, blah, blah, blah. They're wrestlers. It's like, yeah, but they work for $1 billion company.
Yeah.
And
if they're rocking up with holes in the jeans and a t-shirt that they've worn on a 16-hour road trip, they're not the right image for that company.
You know what? I work for a subsidiary of a company. Like, I work in a dilapidated warehouse, and I do wear jeans and sweatshirts and t-shirts to work every day. But it doesn't matter what company you work for, because every company has this on your employment agreement. You represent the company 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mm-hmm. If you go into a place and you say, I work for company A and company A can suck my balls, and there happens to be someone higher up from that company next to you, you can lose your job.
Yeah.
Because you are misrepresenting the company. It's just the way it is. And that's what bothers me. And I mean, I've said it before and I'll say it again. The worst possible thing to happen to AEW were Cody and Brandy. And it doesn't matter if they got it up and running or not. They are setting a bad precedence to their employees by how they act.
I agree.
It's like I walked out of the room during the Cody promo last week on AEW because I don't care. And the fact that they're still running these promos as Brandy and Cody are executives, I don't need to see a promo that shows how many meetings Cody has. I don't care. That's bad writing. You want to talk about shitty WWE storylines? Brandy reading off a list of the media appearances that Cody has to do is not good entertainment.
But they are in this grace period, so people look at it and think, wow, that's a refreshing way to do a promo. And I agree with you. I think it's not. It just didn't feel like it fitted in with the rest of the show.
Not at all. Not at all. But we're digressing back to the women. The women on this roster are the cream of the crop. They are some of the best performers that have ever graced a wrestling ring. They are really, really, really good. And they seem to be delegated to, like, the title match, the first ever AEW women's title match. How long was that match? Because I feel like it wasn't world title match length.
I think it was it about, I think it was sub 15, probably about 12, 13 minutes maybe.
Yeah, with at least one commercial break.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if you want the women's championship, the women's world title, you named it the women's world title, I'm assuming because they want to make sure that everyone knows it's on equal playing field with the world title. Okay, fine. I agree with that. It should be. The women should have their world title main event just as many pay-per-views as the men have their world title, and how many pay-per-views the tag team titles are defended in the main event, and the eventual, cruiserweight or whatever they're going to have as their mid-card title. They all deserve a main event spot because it's a championship. Mm-hmm. Your match is 12 minutes long. Your match is okay. It's not amazing. The only exciting thing that anyone's thinking is, can Rio actually beat Nyla Rose based on the size difference? That's the only exciting part of this match. And to me, I felt that there was no way that Rio was going to lose because, quote unquote, nobody would expect her to beat Nyla Rose. So I felt like that match was really underwhelming because maybe I'm just callous and jaded, but I kind of felt like the finish was set in stone as soon as their entrances hit. Which I know it technically was, but
I think you could say that about every woman's match that there's been on AEW so far. I don't think there's been a really one what I'd say has stood out and said this has been a really, really good match. They've all been adequate. It's almost like there's no chemistry between anyone in that division, save for Priestley versus Britt Baker, which is not even really anywhere near a title match yet. I like Rio. I think she's an absolutely talented. She's a star. She's absolutely is a star, but she's just not had a match yet where she's had any chemistry with anyone. Even the match with Britt Baker, it just felt like they were going through the motions of a match rather than it was a match, if you can understand what I mean.
No, I can understand 100% what you mean. It was. None of these matches have felt like they had any weight to them. They didn't feel like I'm not watching these matches going, "Oh man, I can't wait to see the next 6 months of this."
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Pac and Page. Shit. Fight forever. Like if you want to do this feud for a year, do it, cuz that's a great feud. Moxley and Omega, do it. Just keep, especially because they keep teasing how bloody it's gonna get at Full Gear. Like, do it. You know, this looks awesome. But the just who's gonna challenge Rio next? Who cares? Like at this, it's almost like, you know, you haven't given us a reason yet to care about this division. And I want to care about this division because I like Bea Priestley. I don't have a lot of experience with her. I've only seen her a handful of times. I love her. I absolutely love her. I adore her. She is fantastic, and I just want her to hold that title and beat the shit out of everyone. But, you know, same thing with Britt Baker. I think Britt Baker has been a shining star in all of this because she is an AEW performer with a direct connection to WWE, and she's not rubbing it in anyone's face. In fact, she's showing solidarity with Adam Cole, baby.
Yeah.
Like, and I think it's beautiful. Like, I honestly, I like, it sounds weird, but like, I see the shit that they post on Twitter, and they are fucking adorable. Like,
yeah, I read an interview with her yesterday, I think it was, and they asked her, how do you feel about the fact that you were on a TV at the same time as Adam Cole? And she said, it absolutely sucks. She said, but we're both professionals, and this is the career path that we chose. And getting back onto the women's division in general, there's just no storylines been built up. I mean, we got the slightest inkling of a story with Britt Baker getting a title match. That story is now finished because she got beat. But there's, like you said, there's no one else in the pipeline. There's no stories built up.
There's one storyline that they have teased but not even talked about, and that's Aja and Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And no offense to either of them, because Aja is a legend in women's wrestling. She's a legend in Japanese wrestling. She's a legend. Awesome Kong, a legend. You know, like, and all they've done is stare each other down, and then they never mentioned it again.
And that was, what, 2 months ago?
Yeah, that was Fight for the Fallen?
Mm-hmm.
I think
even longer ago. Then.
Yeah, and it's like, and yeah, I know we got Full Gear coming up. We've got Full Gear. To me, is their first real pay-per-view. This is storylines leading into a pay-per-view. This is make or break for them, in my opinion, and I think a lot of people's opinions. This is make or break, because now you've got 6 weeks of TV leading up to a pay-per-view. Like, you better have something ready. You better have something going. When Jon Moxley's music hits and when Omega's music hits, I want to be at the edge of my seat. And I want to be ready for a fight, because that's what they're building it as. If they get there and they're like, yep, it's going to be a lot of grapples and blah, blah, blah. It's like, so why, you know, because that would be a WWE thing. Oh, we got barbed wire bat. We got a barbed wire broom. Okay, let's not use any of it. Let's just wrestle. Like, yeah. I'm expecting a fight. I'm expecting a brawl. I'm expecting blood. I'm expecting violence. And this is something that AEW can do that WWE cannot do based on their PG rating. We can get some blood and gore wrestling, which there is a huge subset of professional wrestling fans who miss that. And
yeah, absolutely.
Whether you like it or not, that is what can make AEW different. And that's one of the big things that can make AEW different. You know, that more mature product, because TNT doesn't care. The advertisers don't care. USA and Mattel care. And that's just the way it is. So, women's division, we're clear. It's disappointing so far. AEW, Tony Khan, because fuck Brandy. Tony Khan, do better. Period. Do better by these women. WWE just main evented WrestleMania with women. WWE gives multiple women's matches every week. WWE has meaningful women's title feuds. Do better. Period. End of story.
Yeah, especially when you compare it to the men's division. How many subtle and even blatant storylines are coming out of that men's division? Almost every match is leading to a following up storyline, and we're just not seeing that in the women's division. And for a company that as all ethos was, we are going to be all inclusive, we're going to be something that you can't counter program, and they're letting this amazing talent of women down with piss poor booking.
I agree, and you just segued us like a pro. Counter programming. So the counter program to AEW Wednesday Night Dynamite, which I still think is a stupid name. I get it, TNT, ha ha ha. Is NXT on USA. I am not afraid to say that by and by, NXT has been a better program than AEW in a sense of pure wrestling and meaningful storylines for all divisions. I hate Lio Rush. I popped when Lio Rush won the Cruiserweight Championship. Yep. That's how well they told that story. I think that Triple H and William Regal have a fucking camel clutch on their creative direction right now. And NXT is poised, because NXT is also kind of in a grace period because this is a very different format for them. And that was the thing I wanted to talk about, is how AEW has stepped up into this new role because they are no longer even a glimpse of developmental anymore. They are a full-fledged brand, and they are a full-fledged independent organization to WWE, other than WWE pays for them.
I assume you mean NXT then, rather than AEW.
Yes. I mean, I'm still not convinced that AEW isn't a secret Vince McMahon plan, but NXT has been... Now, I've not watched this past week's NXT yet, but NXT has been beginning to end good since they've gone live.
Yeah. If I were to pick out single matches, I would say that AEW have probably edged it in that regard. I think if you were to look at like a single match, they've had some of the better matches. But if you take it as a blanket show, I think that NXT has been consistently better overall than AEW in terms of a 2-hour program.
NXT, the way I look at it is NXT has given me dream indie matches, just like AEW is trying to do, but they've given me dream indie matches I want to see, as opposed to dream indie matches that might be cool. The two I really point out are, I'll choose three actually, and the third one's kind of cheating. Adam Cole, Bebe, and Matt Riddle was a takeover worthy match.
Yep.
Period. That was brilliant. And considering it was going up against Cody and Sammy Guevara, which was a terrible match, it was night and day. Walter and Kushida.
Oh my God.
Was fucking brilliant.
It was. It was so good. So good.
It was wonderful. That's how you do David and Goliath. Mm-hmm. That's how you do that match. Like, it was so wonderful. It was beautiful. It was magical. It was what I love about professional wrestling. And the third one, like I said, is cheating, but it is the 3-part match between Keith Lee and Dominik Dijakovic.
Again, it's like
Dijakovic. Donovan Dijak. Fuck it. Fuck you, Donovan Dijak.
Yeah.
I would have accepted Christopher Dijak, but no. Anyways.
I recently recorded an episode of Badlands, and we did like a mini draft where we picked 4 wrestlers from NXT or AEW, and Dominik Dijakovic made it onto my team because that guy has been phenomenal. And the chemistry just between him and Keith Lee has been absolutely brilliant. And the fact we're going to get Roddy Strong inserted into a triple threat, oh my good God.
The fact of the matter that because of him, the WW or the AE, God damn it, the NXT the NXT announcers and ring announcers and everyone know how to properly pronounce Worcester make me happy. I mean, I'll always love Dijak just because he is the local boy for me. Like, you know, I've been seeing Dijak wrestle live for years. And this was a guy on day one. I just went, he's going to WWE. Like, yeah, he's gonna be there. And then I watched him just run through the Beyond Wrestling roster, run through the Chaotic Wrestling roster, run through the Lucky Pro roster, just dominate the New England independent scene as the top star. And then he gets to NXT, and they do nothing with him. They have him jobbed to Ricochet. And I'm like, this is bullshit. And then his feud with Keith Lee starts. Oh, they finally figured out what they have. And they have one of the best professional wrestlers on the planet.
But they did the same with Keith Lee. When Keith Lee came in, there was a massive, he started and he
jobbed out to like Riddle, I think. First couple of matches.
Yeah, but then he went away for a couple of months and he's come back absolutely on a tear. They did the same with Punishment Martinez. He came in, did really nothing, got this name changed to Damien Priest, and now he looks like a fucking goddamn rock star. They actually had him at the end of the show, which shows that they've really putting strapping a rocket to his ass. I think that's where AEW have helped NXT by being this competition, because the NXT are now pushing these what we would call indie wrestlers and really making big names for themselves. I've got to give AEW props for the fact that they have used the big names that they've got on their roster, the likes of the Jerichos, the Cordys, the Bucks, the Kenny Omegas, to help build up the lesser known stars like
the Orange Cassidy.
Yeah, or the Sammy Guevara or the Darby Allins. They are building up a name, but that's also making NXT do the same kind of thing, and we're getting like Dominik Dijakovic, who, like you said, has been an amazing wrestler for a long time, but the rest of the wrestling audience doesn't know that, and now they're getting to see it.
Yeah, and it's absolutely fantastic. And like on the flip side, I'm not taking anything away from what AEW is giving us. They are definitely building new stars. Not necessarily new stars in professional wrestling, but new stars to a national audience. So let's talk the Inner Circle real quick. So we've got a faction led by Chris Jericho, arguably the greatest professional wrestler of all time.
Well, not arguably.
Sometimes I forget because I have to deal with Scott, and he's like, no, Shawn Michaels. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. I like Shawn Michaels, but Shawn Michaels, he's no Jericho.
No,
so
definitely not.
You've got this faction led by Chris Jericho. You put in a relative unknown with Sammy Guevara. You know, for the most part, he's the most unknown guy in that faction.
Without a doubt.
you throw in a very, very prominent tag team with EYFBO.
But again, they whilst us as pretty much hardcore wrestling fans know who they are, the general wrestling audience probably doesn't know a lot
Here's
about
the thing. The reason I use them as prominent is because they spent a decent amount of time in TNA. So more people are going to know who they are as LAX, than like I know them because they've once again been a staple in New England wrestling for years. I know them. I've talked with them. I've sat down and chatted with Santana many, many times. These are people that, as I can't say I know them, because at the end of the day, I'd be like, hey man, he'd go, who the fuck are you? But, I know them enough where I've sat down and chatted with them before. Then you throw in Jack Hagar, the former Jake Hagar, sorry, Jack Swagger of WWE, and you get this faction that almost reminds me of Evolution, where it's like the legend, the pretty well known, I think I've heard of them, and then the who the fuck is that? And I'm not trying to compare Randy Orton and Sammy Guevara, but it's very, it feels like a new version of Evolution in a sense, and I really like that, and I like that they had foresight enough to have a tag team in that faction, because I feel like a lot of factions are usually just singles, and having a dedicated tag team makes a faction, in my opinion. Look at the Undisputed Era. As much as we argued about it that I think Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish should go out on their own, it legitimizes the faction as the leader, the other dude, and the tag team.
Yeah.
Your main title, your mid-card title, your tag team titles.
The only way they could improve that faction for me would be if they had a woman, a female member, because they've got your champion, you've got the muscle who protects the champion, you've got the flippy cruiserweight to take on the mid-carders, you've got the tag team, and if they added a woman, that's literally a faction ready to dominate.
I've actually been thinking about that, and let's just say, just the current NXT roster, who is your pick for the female? And you can use NXT UK. Who's your pick for the female member of the Undisputed Era?
I would take...
What the fuck? Is your cat mad?
No, it's my granddaughter in the back room. She's
sounded like a cat. And like, meow.
No, she's teething, so she makes a lot of noise. I'd put Bianca Belair in the Undisputed Era.
Oh my god, you just made me so fucking mad. Why?
Because I knew it made you mad. No, I think she's a talented wrestler. She's got the kind of attitude of she's the best, just like the Undisputed Era have that same kind of mindset. I think she'd be a good fit.
So you're gonna agree with me more than you agree with yourself, and I know this. But first, I want to say Bianca Belair. It just bothers the hell out of me. I don't know. She's just.
Well, being the typical Twitter user that I am,
you bitch.
I really enjoy her. I really think she's funny. She's a talented wrestler. She's still obviously a little bit green, but I think she's a kind of, if you give her 2 or 3 years, she's going to be a top star.
I hope you're right, because I don't want anyone not to succeed at the end of the day. But I don't see it. At the end of the day, NXT shot themselves in the foot with Bianca Belair, because when they were first pushing her, they ran these video packages about how she graduated early and she had like her master's degree and she was like a fucking genius and all this shit. And then they have her talk like a fucking street rat. And I hate it. I really hate it. Like,
Yeah.
like, I'm sorry, but, oh, well, you're black, so we're going to give you the traditional, like, no, you didn't roll. Like, I hate that shit. It's so
Yeah, I get,
stupid.
I get that. I
Like,
get that.
like that's what the New Day was initially. They were fucking Southern black evangelists. You know, it's like, it was just stupid. But then they took it and they created something amazing because they actually know how to develop their characters because they're, you know, talented performers. But my pick, and I think you'll agree with me on this, Rhea Ripley.
Uh,
She's the muscle and she has the mentality of I'm better than you.
yeah, I get that, but she's always come off for me as like a lone wolf kind of
I
talent.
don't I don't see that. I see that in the sense of that's how she's been, but she could be their China. And
Yeah,
that's the
yeah,
way I look at it is like Adam Cole's like cuz you know, Adam Cole's the cowardly heel who's also like really fucking good. So, but whenever he's running into issues, he runs away and the Undisputed Era beats the shit out of them. Having a, what is she, 5'8", 5'9", 6 feet, beast of a woman in his corner, where he can run away and she can kick the shit out of, you know, Keith Lee if she needs to. Like,
I dare say she actually could as well.
I think that would be a fantastic addition to their ranks. And now that she's main roster NXT, I don't see any reason why not. Hell, have her beat Shayna Baszler, win the women's title, and then have her assist Adam Cole defending his title against presumably triple threat with Finn Balor and Tommaso Ciampa. And boom. Like Undisputed Era 2.0.
Yeah, I can see the logic in it. I mean, she's got the kind of tweener vibe where she first come in as like as a heel, but now she's facing Shayna, and the fact that she helped Piper Niven on NXT UK, she's now almost getting face pops. So yeah, I could see it work. I wouldn't be opposed to Rhea Ripley being part of the UE.
Yeah. I agree with you one way or the other that they need a woman in that faction, but I don't think your traditional like Pretty Little Blonde would work in that situation. Like you couldn't put in you know, an Alexa Bliss or even like a Dakota Kai or anything like that. Like even if they turned like full heel, like you couldn't that wouldn't work in this group. I think you need a powerhouse woman. You need Rhea Ripley. I mean, I kind of goes against what I said, but maybe a heel Tony Storm would work. That would be a stretch though, for UE. Honestly, I could even see an Io Shirai maybe because she's on this really vicious streak lately. But I think Rhea Ripley is the one that, like, when I see them standing on the stage doing the UE fucking little pose, I can see Rhea Ripley, like, standing over, like, Adam Cole's shoulder or even shoulder to shoulder with him with the two titles.
Yeah.
Like, you know, even one of those, like Chyna used to do for Triple H where she would carry the IC title around for him. Like, I could see her holding the women's championship and the NXT championship, like while Adam Cole kind of like kneels in front of her doing the UE thing. I don't know. I can see that happening. I can see that, and I think that it would be a really it would solidify their faction because they're already the best faction probably in professional wrestling right now. They
They're the one that I I enjoy watching the most. So yeah, I
yeah
agree.
yeah they're just absolutely fantastic. Now this one's a bit weird, and I'm just moving on because we keep going off topic, and I mean that's part of it. That's how it works. So I don't even know how to start the conversation, but I know I know like the basis of why. Actually, Yeah, no, I think we proved the point. The initial point of talking about NXT was why people couldn't accept the fact that NXT was doing their job so unbelievably well because they're so rose-colored looking at AEW right now. But I think we just proved how they're doing it. They're just a good program right now. Everything about what they're doing makes sense.
Yeah, and like I said, I think the high points in AEW have been probably higher than the high points in NXT, but as a consistent 2-hour show, NXT has been by far the better show for me.
Yeah. It's and this is going to tie in actually to the last point. AEW and WWE are essentially, they're both stumbling on their own and fan expectations of what their brands are supposed to be. Now, as we've stated 100 times before, AEW always seems to get a pass because they're in the grace period. They're in that fresh, new, shiny toy period where it's all you want to play with. You know, you don't want to play with any of your other toys because you have AEW. Why would you want to play with anything else? But they're both struggling from the same problems. Now, WWE is trying really hardly to dig themselves out of the hole that they've put themselves in. And you can't blame anyone but WWE. You know, it is what it is. But they kind of shot themselves in the foot repeatedly over the past couple of months. Repeatedly. And it is what it is. So, obviously, the biggest issue right now is they have completely forgotten what they're supposed to be doing with Seth Rollins. They have no idea what to do with Seth Rollins right now. And they have no idea what to do with the Universal title picture. And, I mean, we all saw Twitter after Hell in a Cell. It was a mess. And I actually, what I didn't appreciate was Hell in a Cell was a good pay-per-view.
Yeah.
The finish was a little shitty, but why are we going to take away from Sasha and Becky because creative fucked up Seth and Bray?
Yeah, that Sasha and Becky match was potentially WWE's match of the year.
Oh, no, absolutely. It was violent. It was hard hitting. It showcased Becky and Sasha. And people keep saying that, oh, well, Becky lost her luster. She's not entertaining anymore. No, she's not entertaining because you can never be happy with what you have. Becky for champ, Becky for champ, Becky for champ. Oh, Becky's champ? I'm bored with that now.
Exactly the same with Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree that WWE have not booked him as well as they could, but everybody and everybody in the dog wanted Seth Rollins to win that title at Mania. He won the title, and 6 months later, is almost a pariah in the wrestling Twitter sphere. Yeah, I put a lot of blame on the fact that Twitter makes every wrestler so accessible, and the fact that we can get results so instantly. But wrestling fans are so impatient. They want everything right now, right this minute. But once they get it, they want the next thing. And this was my issue with AEW at the beginning, that fans are clamoring for AEW, absolutely clamoring for it. But within a few weeks or a couple of months or so, they'll soon be looking over the shoulder to see what's the next big thing coming. And there's just no patience anymore. If something goes wrong on that night, the rest of the show is basically cancelled.
That actually plays directly into the first AEW stumble of their own expectations. They're giving us the dream matches that we should be getting 6 months from now. And that is not smart. Just because you have this talent, build up to it. We don't need Moxley Omega right now.
Nope,
give it a couple of months. Give it a year. Have them fuck with each other for a year. Like, This is John Moxley. His whole character is psychological. It's, I like to fight and you're annoying me, so I'm going to make your life difficult. Yep, that's his character. And everyone can say how bad Dean Ambrose was. It's the same character. It's literally John Moxley on the indies, Dean Ambrose in WWE, John Moxley in AEW. They're all extensions of the exact same character. And nobody seems to be okay, or nobody seems to notice that. I think a lot of people have never seen John Moxley pre-WWE.
Testify.
I don't think a lot of people have seen Dean Ambrose in FCW or NXT because it wasn't easily accessible.
Nope.
All they know is Dean Ambrose in The Shield, which everyone loved. But then Dean Ambrose left The Shield and everyone hated him. But he was the same guy. That's the thing. Creative may have had some bad ideas, but he worked with them. Mitch the Houseplant was one of the greatest things ever on WWE television.
Yeah, and to get back to the John Moxley fans, the amount of people who got into debates with, shall we say, on Twitter about how they can't wait to get Moxley back, and my view was, you didn't watch Moxley when he was Moxley.
Yeah.
CZW had little to no exposure. You watched Dean Ambrose. You were disenfranchised with the WWE, but that doesn't mean that you are this John Moxley since day one fan, because you're not. 99% of wrestling fandom is not a John Moxley from day one fan. So, yeah, a lot of fans can be very... There's no consistency with them, and they only remember what is pertinent to them at the time.
So the funny story about John Moxley is when he was in FCW and when he was in NXT, I was at a house show in Worcester, and the main event was a WWE Championship match between The Big Show and CM Punk. It was a lumberjack match, and one of the lumberjacks was Dean Ambrose. And I'm looking at this guy and I'm going, man, he's familiar. I don't know why he's familiar, but I know he's familiar to me. So I did some digging and I found Dean Ambrose in Florida Championship Wrestling. So I watched it and I was like, man, this guy is familiar. Like, why do I know this guy? And then I remembered that I'd seen a couple of John Moxley matches, and the only reason I remembered is because they had buzzsaws and needles and fucking broken glass and thumbtacks, and I went, oh yeah, that guy. So it's like, I'll never claim to be a Moxley since day one fan, but he resonated with me when I saw him even before I remembered who he was. Because I saw his matches and went, this guy's fucked up. But it took me up until, prior to his debut on main roster to go, wait a second, I know this guy. But it's like, yeah, people are like, John Moxley. It's like, and I recommend John Moxley matches to people when this first happened. And they're like, oh my God, that was disgusting. I'm like, that's John Moxley. Like, they're like, no, what about I thought it was just like angry Dean Ambrose. It's like, no, he's a deathmatch wrestler. Like, he's barbed wire, thumbtacks, broken glass, fire, buzzsaws, needles through the cheek, deathmatch wrestler. They're like, oh, ew. And I'm like, yeah, that's what you were clamoring for. There he is. Deal with it. Because that's what I want. That is the Moxley that I want. Because you know what? Him and Janela tore the roof down. Him and Havoc could kill each other. Him and Allen could kill each other. I want to see him kill people. That's what I want to see out of John Moxley. I want to see him kill people. I want him to kill people and then for WWE to pay for his health insurance because he's married to one of their employees. That's what I want to see.
Great point.
Yeah. So the biggest thing, and this is the number one thing that I wanted to bring up, is How long have you been watching WWE, sir?
Since the late 80s on and off.
On
So,
and off.
yeah,
Okay.
about 30 years.
Did you watch during the late 2000s?
Uh, I kept up with what was happening, but I had a period of about 10 years where I wasn't really watching a lot of the main roster shows. I'd watched the pay-per-views, but Raw and SmackDown probably not.
Okay. But you have a general idea of what was happening between, say, 2008 and, say, 2016, 2017. So there was a big thing that still happens today that people have crucified and vilified WWE for, and that is well, tonight, playa, you're going to be in a tag team match. Oh, your main event tonight, Monday Night Raw, we've got a tag team match. Hey, don't forget that this Sunday at Heck in a Sec, we've got a 6-man tag team match. Tag team match, tag team match, tag team match, tag team match. Everything's a tag team match. Every main event's a tag team match. Wait a second. No, I'm sorry. Maybe I'm thinking of AEW Dynamite. Because every single fucking match is a tag team match.
It does seem so.
2 out of 3 main events have been tag team matches. Now, and I'm not even referring to tag team tournament matches. Those are allowed. Those are okay. They have a purpose. Tag team matches everywhere. Everywhere you look, there's a tag team match. We've got Hangman Page and Kenny Omega versus Jon Moxley and Pac. Okay, cool. We've got, we've got the Young Bucks versus, it was the Young Bucks and someone versus someone and someone when Hagar debuted.
It was Young Bucks and Kenny.
Kenny versus the Jericho and I don't know. I don't remember. But there's been tag team matches everywhere. Everywhere you look, there's a tag team match.
It was LAX anyway.
Oh, yeah, Jericho and LAX. EYFBO. Thank you very much. Why is it that AEW can have 18 tag team matches in 3 weeks, but if WWE does a main event that is a tag team match, it's the worst booking ever made?
The answer is twofold. Absolutely twofold.
Okay.
The first one is the one we've gone over time and time again. They're in a grace period. Everything that AEW does now is looked at behind rose-colored glasses. And we mentioned just before we were recording about how if AEW do one thing and then WWE do the same thing, that WWE will be crucified for it and AEW gets a pass. The other major reason is because they want to cram as many stars on this show as they possibly can to make sure they keep the audience numbers
up. So
up.
Are you saying they're shoving main event stars down our throats?
Well,
wait, hold on. So you're saying that we can't have a single episode of AEW Dynamite without Roman Reigns? I'm sorry, I meant Kenny Omega. Like it's the same shit. It's like, so WWE does Roman Reigns is feuding with Braun Strowman. Seth Rollins is feuding with Bray Wyatt. And the main event of Raw is Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins versus Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt. Because those are the feuds that are going on. Oh, that's just lazy booking. Okay. Adam Page is feuding with Pac. Jon Moxley is feuding with Kenny Omega. Let's put them in a tag team match together. This is brilliant. This is the greatest booking I've ever seen. It's the same thing. And people refuse to realize that it's not any different. It's the same style of lazy booking. I'm sorry, but I want to see... Okay, you've got this roster, this insane roster, might I add, and you're giving me the tag team matches that are just rematches from other singles matches. And it's like, no. if you, instead of doing that tag team match, why don't, okay, now this is thinking outside the box. Since you're focused on professional wrestling and win-loss records, why didn't you give me Hangman Page versus Kenny Omega? Just throwing that out there. Face versus face is perfectly acceptable. Why didn't you give me Jon Moxley versus Darby Allin? Why didn't you give me Joey Janela versus Kenny Omega? Why didn't you? I'm just spitballing random matches.
Well, they did do Joey Janela versus Kenny Omega on AEW Dark, and it was a belter of a match, to be fair.
Okay, that's a bad example. I haven't watched Dark out of spite because Cody keeps spoiling the finishes of matches.
I do get your frustration. I think what's happening with AEW right now is they've got all these indie stars that the indie wrestling crowd love, and they're throwing dream match after dream match after dream match at us. But eventually you keep doing that so often, and these dream matches don't become dream matches. They just become
matches,
repeated matches over and over again. And you get to the point where we're seeing the likes of Chad Gable versus Baron Corbin time and time again, because they're hitting on something that is a little bit popular, and then they're feeding it to us until we can't stand it no more. And I think we're going to get to that point with AEW if they don't stop with these dream match after dream match after dream match.
So okay, I'm gonna ask you a question.
No,
and I'm going to.
I'm not doing a Dutch rudder with you.
Double Dutch rudder. Thank you very much. If that was my first Kevin Smith reference of the whole fucking show, and I said I was gonna make a bunch. Are you sure? Well, who the fuck's Anne Frank? Anyways, it's a great movie. Kenny Omega. I'm not questioning Kenny Omega's talent. That is not what this is about. But was Kenny Omega only special because we only got to see him wrestle every couple of months?
I mean, there is an argument for that, I suppose. You could say the same about Johnny Gargano. He is very rarely wrestling, so his matches, when they do happen, do kind of stand out. But to be fair, I think that Kenny's matches in Dynamite have been pretty good.
No, they have, but it doesn't feel... So for the past 3 years, Kenny Omega has been the main event. That's it. Mm-hmm. Kenny Omega has been the main event. Wrestle Kingdom, G1, Kurikan Hall shows, all of the big New Japan shows, Kenny Omega has been the main event with Okada or with Tanahashi, with these legendary Japanese performers. But now we're going to see Kenny Omega versus, Joey Janela, which I'm not saying is bad. I'm just saying, we're going to see Kenny Omega versus someone who could easily be considered beneath him. His resume, at least, how the highest echelon he has reached wrestling Okada and wrestling these top talent names. You can't have him wrestle a top talent name every week. You're gonna have to have him wrestle mid card, low card, whatever. Does that take away from the mystique and the legend that is Kenny Omega? Because I feel like seeing him wrestle once a month against Okada or, Jericho or Naito is one thing, but seeing him wrestle, fucking John Silver is another thing. I mean, I love John Silver. I think they should have won, but that's the
Yeah, I can understand that, but with the fact that it's going to be a weekly show and he's the one of the main attractions, he's going to have to face some people. You can't have him against Jericho or Moxley week after week. I think AEW need to use him to elevate the other guys. Maybe not having so much losing more, but when he does lose, it's a big deal. Or he faces opponents and they take him to the edge, but ultimately they don't
Okay,
get the victory over him.
that actually brings up a great point then. Kenny Omega is already an established star. Kenny Omega's already like well into his career. Kenny Omega, compared to a lot of the rest of the roster, is already closer to the end of his career than most of the other guys.
Yep.
Is Kenny Omega going to quickly transition into your Chris Jericho in WWE or Mick Foley in WWE or Triple H in WWE, where he's putting over younger talent?
I think he would do that naturally, whether he was coming to the end of his career or not. The way that he kind of sets out the match, his opponent always gets time to shine. I would have said. I don't think you can point to many Kenny Omega matches where it's a squash. He's always made his opponents look better than they usually are. So I think he does that without really consciously thinking about it. But there is going to become a point where he is almost going to be the gatekeeper for the next generation, and maybe that's why he was happier to take this vice president role, because he knows that maybe he hasn't got as long at the top of the wrestling world, especially with the way he wrestles. Maybe he's wanting to prepare some of the younger talent to step into those shoes.
I love the way you're putting this now. Kenny Omega is 36 years old. So let's argue he has about 10 years left before it's really time to think about hanging up those boots. And that is not
even 10. The way he wrestles.
That's going to say style. Not considering his style. So we need to get into plug times. But I will say one thing. We don't need 8 V-triggers in a match. Just throwing that out there, Kenny.
But the fans love him. The fans love him. That's why
fuck the fans. The fans are dumb. I'm one of them. I'm an idiot. But seriously, like, don't cheapen your signature or your finisher for anyone. And I know that the One Winged Angel, like, there's been one kick out, like, in history. But, like, don't make the V-trigger worse than it is. I mean, it's already just a last shot. It's already just a Kinshasa. It's the same fucking running knee strike as everyone else. You know, but it's yours. Don't cheapen it. So, Mags, do you have your list in front of you of all of your Twitter accounts and podcasts? Because I'm going to give you a minute.
I don't need a list. I've got this down to a T. I'm on that many people's podcasts there. I kind of just can ram it off.
So you're saying how unspecial I am. I get it.
No. Any time that you volunteer, I make time for you. So, I mean, you've actually even agreed to come on my shows, which that's I think it's going to be the end of Why We Watch and Badlands, because you're finally going to make your appearances on them.
Yeah, and then you're going to get canceled for the horrible things that I say.
I'm going to get a bleeper.
You better.
No, but you can find my shows. I do a show about UFC, which I literally just finished recording before I spoke to Ryan here. That's called the 5 Rounds Pod. I do a show called Badlands, where we talk about the Mount Rushmores of wrestling. That's with my tag team partner at Reencounter, Mr. Paul Tully, and my baby show, the thing that started me in this podcasting world, Why We Watch, is where I talk to wrestling fans and content creators about why they love this absolutely stupid thing that we watch, where guys in tarts pretend to fight each other. So yeah, come and check them out. You can follow me on Twitter at DAJ Kirkbet, and I promise if I unfollow you, it probably wasn't me doing it. It was definitely Twitter.
Blame Twitter. Because when I woke up the other day and saw that Mags and Bags, or whatever your name, the motivational Mags, or whoever you are these days, has followed you back, I went, wait, what? Because I'm pretty sure we've been following each other for 2 years now.
Yeah.
You were one of the first.
no word of a lie, I got about 30 DMs off people saying, have you only just started following me? And I had to go over the same script again and again.
Copy paste.
Yeah, what happened, to cut a long story short, I unfollowed a lot of bot accounts. I spent about 2 or 3 hours at my laptop just unfollowing these porn accounts and these bot accounts and these Charlotte 076451 at whatever
Hello,
accounts.
glad you are fan.
Yeah, exactly. And then I woke up the next morning and Twitter had suspended my account. I had to verify that I was who I said I was. And then they said I had no people following. So I looked like an absolute poser where I built up a bit of a following and then got rid of everyone to make myself look massively
That's a
important.
great idea. I mean, what?
That was not the case. So I spent another hour or so following the people who I could remember who I followed. Obviously, Ryan here at the Blade Job was one of the first that I refollowed, and then
wait, hold on. Are you following Trashcan? Did you not follow Trashcan back?
I didn't need to. I do follow Trashcan, but I didn't need to follow him because Twitter, in their grace, decided, oh, you can have all your followings back now. So some people got a message saying I was following him back. Other people just didn't realize.
All right, Trashcan is confirming that this is all right. Just making sure. Just making sure. But that is it. Ladies, gentlemen, children, you shouldn't be listening, but I'm going to teach you some fantastic words. Fuck shit. Penis. Good night. Good luck. Boing. I don't know. I don't know how to end it. Mags, you end it. You end it. Say the ending.
The ending.
Awesome! Every Wednesday on the Wrestling Perspective Network, RJ and Michael Berry Sr. come to play on the Revisionist Booking. They rebook a wrestling pay-per-view from the past and try to make their cards awesome. Follow them on Twitter at Revisionist Book, at Michael Berry Sr., and go over to iTunes, Stitcher, and blogtalkradio.com/Wrestling Perspective Network and subscribe. Head over to whatforapparel.com/Revisionist Book and check out their great apparel as well. And as always, you're welcome, and let the Revisionist Revolution begin.
That you can know me. Don't try and play that game. Every day that I